Good morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome to the second edition of the best DFS show that just happens to start at 8 Eastern Standard Time. My name is Rob Diamond, Rob Diamond on Twitter, Sir Robert6 on all the main sites, RotoPros.com. Get over and check us out. I'm not going to spend too much more time here talking. If you missed our first show earlier about the Champions League this afternoon, make sure to check it out. It's absolutely moneymaker. But in terms of NHL now, there's some huge things we have to go over here tonight. I'm incredibly excited about this slate. I think there's some massive leaks that's going to go every single which way that we can jump all over. There's a few lines that stack brilliantly together with big names or without big names, and I want to jump all over them. So without further ado, let's jump right into this. If you're just tuning in, after I've recorded this and released it, at the bottom there should be timestamps of every single game. So if you're looking just to skip ahead of everything or just jump through to certain games to review, by all means, please use the timestamps. That's why they're there. So anyways, let's get right at this. Excuse me for my accent there kicking in. I'm getting a little bit tired, but I know what's up here. We got this. I'm really excited. First game, Florida at New York Rangers. So actually what we're going to do first is we're going to check out some starting goalies. See if anything got updated from the morning skate yet. Good old Canadian internet. If you're wondering what dial-up of high speed looks like, this is basically it. So anyways, Florida at New York Rangers. I'm incredibly excited about this one for the main reason that neither team have a goaltender. It should be an absolute smash on either side here. You can game stack this. You can use the players in cash, whatever you feel like doing. It all works. Mainly, though, what I'm going to be looking to do in this slate is attack Grigoriev. Not an NHL caliber goaltender whatsoever. Let 7 goals in his first game against Carolina, a team that couldn't even score 7 goals against Detroit, the worst team in the league. So gives you an idea of the kind of caliber that we're going up against this slate. And he's absolutely someone that we should be attacking with everything we got. Keith Yandle's going to lose a lot of ownership because of his salary, and I have no issue with that. If you want to use it in cash, he's absolutely playable. I think he's incredible in GPP because he stacks brilliantly with the rest of the top Florida line. In terms of the wingers, again, Dadonov and Huberdeau are top class. And even if you want to start game stacking Kreider, and there's a huge drop-off here to Zuccarello, who I really like. I'm not so crazy about Bukestad, but in terms of the rest of the team here, I think Jasper Fast makes for a really interesting GPP play. He's playing first line for the New York Rangers at the moment. That was as of last night. So obviously things may change here this afternoon. But yeah, in terms of Jasper Fast, I think he makes for a really interesting GPP play. But really where I'll be looking to attack is with the Florida. Zibanejad does work a little bit, but I really like here going Barkov, Dadonov, and Yandle. I think making those three one of your main core GPP stacks or a cash stack of the day or evening, excuse me, is a very great way to go about things. If I was to cut one out, it would definitely be Barkov just for salary purpose. But the thing is that him and Dadonov cost the exact same, so you can go either one or the other, and you can kind of pivot out one or the other, and you're not really having a dramatic change in the core of your card because of the exact same salary. But like I said, I don't actually hate the Rangers here. One of my, I think, more favorable GPP Ranger plays would be Howden, the third-line centerman, Brett Howden, at only 3.4K. I think that's a little bit sneaky. He's worth a goal every, 1 out of 4 games or something. So, I don't mind him at all. But, yeah, in terms of this game, I'm absolutely going to be looking to attack Florida. Attack the Rangers goaltender Grigoriev with Florida in every format. Yandle and Dadonov is probably where I would definitely start, though. And most of my cash builds will probably start with these two this slate. I think it's a surefire. And we'll talk about the tiers when we get there later. 4-2 Florida. I don't think they'll let in 3, but if they do, I see them keeping this above 2 goals. So whatever the Rangers do happen to score, I see Florida scoring 2 more on Grigoriev. And I don't see the Rangers necessarily winning, but at the same time, I don't see Hutchinson keeping a good score. So yeah, Florida, get them into your cards this slate. Start with some Dadonov or Yandle, one or the other, but I like taking them both. Arizona at Columbus. This is a really sneaky game in a few different ways. Alex Galchenyuk is expected to make his return to the lineup tonight and play first line center with Keller and Lawson Krause on the other wing. Now, while I'm not really necessarily interested in that line, Galchenyuk in himself is half interesting from that salary. Oops, took gender too. I'm not really going to use them this slate. It's more, I'm not really interested in Arizona outside of playing spoiler this slate, which I think they definitely can do. Seth Jones is also getting back in the lineup here this slate. And that salary, like everyone knows, Seth Jones was a cash god last year. I'm just not sure if that's the salary you want to walk off with the first game of the season for him. Like you only have to look at guys like Jonathan Quick, an elite goaltender who's coming back into the lineup and letting 4 goals in a night. You're just not in form for your first few games. So 6.2K is just too much for me. Oopsie, sorry about that. Went back there. But yeah, in terms of, oh geez, that's all my cards. Let's just close that. Sorry about that. Oh, isn't this just that kind of day? Sorry. So let's clear that. Let's try again. I don't think Hiltz will be staying anyway, so it's not a big deal. What you saw will be changing. But yeah, the thing about this game for me really is that I think Columbus are fake favorites. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, it's Arizona, so like Atkinson's totally playable from 6.6K, and Panarin's there too. But like, really, the idea here is that you really want Arizona to score enough goals to make whichever Bobrovsky or Korpisalo, whichever does end up starting, rather irrelevant this slate. Because like I've been saying, I've been talking about a lot, Bobrovsky is coming up to a contract year, so he's just not the same goaltender that he has been in the past. Is he a good goaltender? Obviously. Can he do something? Obviously. But my real concern here is that Arizona scores enough on him to make him pointless again tonight, which has kind of been a trade a couple times this season. So yeah, I'm not looking at goaltenders on either side of this game. I'm actually going to straight fade this game outside of maybe play some Stefan at only 4.9K. I won't even play that in cash, so I'm really not interested. I have a lot more other interests later on in the slate that I think are way more viable and allow you to basically do all the things you need with salaries. And I just don't see this game being very viable either way. Obviously, Columbus at home, the shutdown game is so real, but they're not really shutting anything down. So like, could they win 4-1? Absolutely. Is it more likely to be like a 2-1 win, 3-1 win? Yeah, maybe even overtime. So I think it'll be a lot closer than people are expecting, just because the Columbus goaltender situation is a little bit more shaky than the general public is like catching on to, but the Columbus team is more than aware of it. Nick Foligno is always interesting to me because he's always super cheap. I'm not really paying for him this slate. I would rather just go to Atkinson. But yeah, 2-1 Columbus. Let's say that. Next game, Calgary at Montreal. Sorry, I've been supposed to. Darn, I meant to check these out in FanDuel as well. Let's bring that up here. There we go. Okay, so yeah, the Florida-New York game, obviously, again, not really looking at the goaltenders. Yandel is way cheaper over here, so I have absolutely no issue with him, even more over here. And Mike Matheson is really interesting to me, too. He hasn't seen power play time, so it is a little bit of a let off there. But he should be super low owned at only 3.9K. Some sites list him as first line, some sites list him as second. I'm not really concerned either way. But again, if you're looking to game stack this game, it's very viable. Very, very viable. Because again, like those are all very accessible salaries. So yeah, I don't mind the Florida-New York Rangers game, but like I said, I'll be sticking, especially in FanDuel. Yandel's 5.3K is way too cheap, and Dadnoff at 6.5 is getting a little bit more expensive, but it isn't the worst. And yeah, Barkov at 7.3 is a little bit too expensive for me over here, so that's probably where I'll be avoiding them. But yeah, in terms of the second game, Columbus and Arizona, you see again, Keller's just a little bit too expensive for me. Galchenyuk's interesting again. But yeah, I would rather game stack the first game before this one. Yeah, Seth Jones is cheaper, but again, like I'd rather just take Yandel, and I don't want to touch the goaltenders; it's too shaky for me. So yeah, Calgary, Montreal. This is a tough one because Calgary are playing way outside their skin this season, like really, really well, and I don't know how much longer they can keep it up. Like obviously they're excellent players, so I can't say these salaries aren't sustainable because they've earned them over years of being very good. And like Giordano is probably too cheap at 5 point. Like Petrie's too expensive though for me at 5 points. He's been crazy expensive the last few slates, like 6K and 5.7K and stuff. And like his peripherals haven't been that good. Like he hasn't been that great of a player. Like that's borderline like Brent Burns kinds of scores, salaries, excuse me, and not the scores. So yeah, I'm not really looking at the defense here. As always though, like Mike Riley makes for a really interesting punt. He's excellent with the puck. But yeah, I think if I'm going to look at this game at all, it would probably be a Carey Price at 7.5K. The fact is, Calgary goalies are just bad and hashtag bad. And eventually that's going to catch up to them. And maybe playing a team like Montreal isn't the time to find it. And maybe, like I said, Calgary have been playing really well. Beating Colorado isn't an easy task. Beating the Rangers like that with 44 saves isn't an easy task. Mike Smith hasn't been quite as serviceable, but at the same time, like beating Boston, like they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. So yeah, it's frustrating, that's for sure, to like try and get the Flames right. But again, like I'm really focused this slate on a few different games, and this just isn't one of them. And it's pretty straightforward. Like I think if I was going to focus on any team, it would definitely be Montreal because they're so much cheaper, and Calgary's goaltenders are not this good. They're not sustainable. So yeah, like Tatar's is probably a little bit too cheap. I think the salaries are right on point. Like Byron is too expensive. I don't want to pay 5.3K for someone like that. And like their sentiments are just generally boring. Like Domi just got his first goal the other night. Dano isn't worth it. Mendy isn't doing enough despite his super value. So like the game just doesn't really have it for me. I think basically, honestly, every other game has like the kind of upside to win you a slate. Maybe if Monahan and Goudreau combined for like 2 goals spread between them or something like that, like it could work out. But like I don't know, Montreal at home just isn't the team I'm looking to pick on. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird to say. It feels like I'm setting a red flag off my own head as I say that. But like, it's just not a place I'm looking to slate. But like, yeah, it's like you can pay 7K for Calgary against Montreal, or you can pay a little bit cheaper for Florida against Gregoriev, who's 7 goals against goaltender. Like, is Carey Price a 7 goals against goaltender? Absolutely not. Is Montreal a great team? No, but they're not that bad. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm probably a little bit harder to go against in terms of Calgary. I'm just not keen on them. So yeah, I think we'll check out FanDuel first before I make my final call. But yeah, again, 8.3 isn't too bad when you look at all the different goaltenders. He's down a little bit in the salary. So, yeah, he isn't my favorite goaltender of the slate, obviously. Carey Price isn't. But, yeah, in terms of a GPP, I can definitely get behind some Carey Price this slate. It totally makes sense going against a team like Calgary, who just can't keep this hot kind of streak going. Yeah, Peter's cheaper over here, a lot cheaper. He still isn't really someone I want to play, but at least you can say like that salary is far more respectable and playable, even at 4.3K. But yeah, like just a lot of grit and not a lot of sniper upside outside of like the Monahan Goudreau, which I'm really not interested in. Another 2-1, 3-1 game Montreal, probably 3-1 Montreal and an empty net, or either way, I'll say either way, 3-1 with an empty net goal. It's hard to say which way it goes, but if I was to take one side of it, I would probably go with Carey Price. Next game, Boston at Ottawa. So this is a game that you're going to have to take a stand on and either play or fade. It's either Boston are going to break out of the slump that they're on against the red-hot Ottawa Senators, or Boston is going to continue to be playing really, really badly, really, really hurt, and just unable to get much things going. Like, this is seriously bad for someone who costs that expensive. Like, it's literally astronomically bad. That's how serious of a problem this is. And like, if you're looking to pay that much for guys who are barely putting up points, like, again, that's fine if someone costs 4 or 5K. It's not fine when they're literally the most expensive winger on the entire slate. Is he? Yeah. Like, literally the most expensive winger on the slate. So, like, I don't know. Like, is that really where you want to go put your ownership into your basket this slate? Is that really what you want to do in Boston? Because honestly, I think a lot of people are going to, because a lot of people are homers and they still think Ottawa's a really bad team and that Boston's a really good team. And while they're both correct statements, they're not living out to be absolutely true at the moment. Craig Anderson's easily the hottest goaltender in the league right now. And literally, Boston's goaltenders are easily the worst in the league right now. So, like, look how they're in real rough shape at the back. They just picked Camphor up, and he's already getting serious time. Carlo's fallen off the face of the earth. Really hasn't had a good season at all. Like, must have shown up to training camp out of shape or something. I don't know what the situation is. But, like, yeah, Boston in general are just a team we can comfortably fade because – we know their ownership is good. We know they're playing badly. That's the first part. The second part is we know they're going to be expensive and we know they're going to be highly owned. So, like, there's just lots of reasons to fade them and let things happen as is. And maybe they get a goal and maybe they still don't pay off from that goal. You know, that line, I mean, the first line. So, like, am I on Ottawa? Not necessarily. I happen to like Zach Smith at 3.7K. I think he fits into a lot of really interesting builds, a lot of really interesting game stacks and line stacks. If you put the 3.7K in for a center, it really it enters you into a different zone. So I have no issue with Zach Smith and some GPP. He's literally, this is my, okay, so I meant to talk about this a little bit earlier, but I'll talk about it now. This slate, I am chasing shorthanded goals. I want upside this slate. I want to win some GPPs, and the first way I'm going to do that is by playing players who are playing the penalty kill because they get bonus points for any points they may happen to get. Boston have been so bad the past few games that an Ottawa shorthanded goal is absolutely 100% in the cards. No question. And Zach Smith dominates the penalty kill time for the Ottawa Senators. So there's a few players like this slate who are already like borderline value plays without like much reason, and then they get a few reasons like these penalty kills that send them absolutely skyward. And Zach Smith's absolutely someone I'm going to be using in a lot of GPPs this slate. He isn't a cash play by any means, but GPP, don't be afraid to get him in and just see where the build goes. Because that's a lot of issues with me in hockey is a lot of times I'll look at a bunch of salaries, like, for example, not necessarily right now, but like the Boston line, and I'll see them like, there's no way you can afford all those three and still have a viable card and just skip right over it. Where in fact, if you actually tried to build the card and throw in a few value guys, you'll find you're actually in a really good place. So yeah, that's someone I'm considering is Zach Smith for GPP. Maybe if you want to jump on some Craig Anderson, I wouldn't even hate that in GPP just because Boston have been so bad. But again, Boston isn't a team really to pick on, even if you're Ottawa at the moment. And we can check it out on FanDuel, but it's generally the same situation. Pasternak's the second most expensive winger in the slate. Doesn't deserve it at all. The defense for Ottawa is way too cheap over here. Shabbat and LaJoy are both way too cheap. I prefer Shabbat, excuse me, of the pair. I think he's absolutely cash viable. At only 4.2K going against the ice-cold Bruins, I'll definitely get my hand in on that. But again, like Patrice Bergeron is just too expensive. And I don't like Matt Duchene probably having to match up against that all game. Like I said, if I'd rather take anyone, it's absolutely Zach Smith. Drop down, try and find a little bit of a matchup where he goes on against a bunch of kids and manhandles them for a goal. maybe even a penalty kill point, and that would be extra juicy on FanDuel. Yeah, I have no issue with that. This game, I don't know. 3-0 Ottawa was like my feeling originally, and it still is, but like that just doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? Like that scoreline, just 3-0 Ottawa over Boston, isn't something I can conceive. So I'll go 3-2 Ottawa. Let's say 3-2 Ottawa in overtime. But yeah, I don't like Boston this game. Let's put it that way. I don't like their salaries. Maybe if you want to take no, don't even. Ottawa is just one of those teams that you just don't want to pick at home. For some reason, Boston's still a buy high scenario, so there's no reason to try and jump on this. Fade it. Let some other people take the salary risks. We're going to go elsewhere. Next game, San Jose at Nashville. This game's really hard to pin. Honestly, both like Soros should be playing badly, but he's playing really well. Jones has played really badly in the past, but is playing spectacular this season. I shouldn't say this season. He's turned it around quite nicely in this past 2 outings. Very easy games, mind you, but like this shouldn't be an easy game. I really don't know if we can spend this much against Nashville at home. Nashville at home is a really good team. Like if there's a cancel-out game this slate that both teams should just like equal out perfectly and neither be able to capitalize, it would be this game. And like at the same time, a lot of the salaries are still really expensive. Like Forsberg and Kane, both optimal, but like really expensive. I suppose you could take Kane, but like there's no reason to target Saros at home right now. There just isn't anymore. There's no reason. Just don't bother. Like sure, there's goals happening there, but like that's just going to cause Nashville to score more. And I don't know. I don't know if either team can score a goal this game. I see it being probably the lowest the lowest goal scoring game of the slate. 2-1 probably either way. I'm not even going to try and pick it. I just don't see the GPP stack winning coming from this game. Both these two teams are too defensively sound. And they're not cheap enough to like start taking runs at. Like Dong Soy, sure, if you want, that would be as like crazy as I would go in this game. Like I know, like yeah, Pavelski's probably too cheap, but just like going up against this Nashville team at home isn't the place to go. It isn't the place to target. It's not optimal. They still get ownership too. People still think it's cute to own them. So like I'm fading this game. That's my take. If you want to jump on it, I can't stop you, but that's generally my feeling about this game. I haven't liked it since the start, and this is really why. Like both these keepers are rather expensive and very close together. And I find FanDuel usually has the goaltenders priced a little bit more correctly, a little bit more on cue. So yeah, I like this pricing better as well as compared to the DraftKings version of the San Jose version. So yeah, like that's mad expensive, 7.1K. That was fun against like teams that let in lots of goals, but neither of these two teams should be letting in insane goals. I don't like anything. Yeah, Donexoy again. Like Mayer down here is really cheap at 4.8K. He has a really decent floor for his salary and is borderline cash viable. I would feel the same about Craig Smith if he was a few $100 cheaper. Just going up against San Jose isn't ideal to me. It's just like the most unideal situation. Actually, like let's flip it this way. If you're a team and you're going up against San Jose, that's really not a good idea. That's not fun. And then flip it. If you're a team and you're going up against Nashville and they're at home, it's really not a fun idea to try and get DFS production out of that. So, yeah, I think there's tons of things to be had in other games, particularly what we're about to fall on next, and particularly what we talked on first. So, yeah, that's really my take so far. 2-1 either way. I'm really not interested. You can safely fade it and without having too much fear of ruining your night, because the next game on tap is Anaheim at Chicago. And yeah, doesn't matter what way you want to look at here. Chicago Hey, he won a game and he only let in one goal, but it was against Columbus, the team that doesn't score goals. Crawford has only played 2 games in like 2 calendar years. Um, I don't know what to say here. Chicago have been letting in crazy amounts of goals, like crazy amounts of goals, the most in the league. It helps that they have guys like Patrick Kane and DeBrincat and Jonathan Taves and all these excellent coaching staff on their side. But like they have no goaltending power until Corey Crawford really, really turns things around. And this will be a game. Like if Corey Crawford turns things around, we can start to confidently say, okay, Chicago's a team again that we can start to look at defensively going forward. But up until this point, Chicago have been defensively inept, letting in minimum 4 goals every game. I'm hoping that for some reason the hockey gods seem to deem upon us Cam Ward. I highly doubt that's going to happen, but I'm expecting it to be Corey Crawford. But like John Gibson's one of the best goalies in the no, let me rephrase that. Statistically speaking, John Gibson is the best goalie in the league right now. So yeah, he hasn't had the best little run as of late. In particular, the overtime loss to Arizona while only letting 2 goals probably really hurt. But like Dallas is a high octane team. They definitely should have beat that. Vegas isn't an easy team to play at home, so that isn't necessarily surprising. And he only let in 2 on 44 saves. And that's the thing is like, look at these save counts Gibson's getting. So like, it's not like he's going to be surprised if all of a sudden he has to make 35 saves against Chicago and only let in 1 of them or 2 of them max. Where like every game this season, Chicago's basically let in 4 up until last game. So yeah, Anaheim has some of my favorite plays this slate. In particular, my favorite stack for either cash or GPP. I'm confident using this in either because it's such a huge value. Is Ryan Kessler and tagging him in with Ben Street. Now, Ryan Kessler isn't necessarily like a must play in this scenario. I expect him to see a lot of the not Taves line, which is a big uptick for him. I think he'll benefit from that hugely and probably get a point because of it. But Ben Street is absolutely 100% what this slate is about. This is the lock of the slate. It's the best play of the slate, and that's even before you consider his salary. Now, this is why Ben Street is the best play of the slate. First of all, let's just bring up left wing lock. Skaters, line combos. Anaheim Ducks. Now, we're getting into the point of the season where left wing lock is turning into be a huge free tool for any DFS player because it's hitting a sample slate now where all their percentages are starting to matter. And as you'll see, Ben Street is playing first line wing with Getzlaf and Arberg. Now, Arberg has been a massive disappointment so far in his NHL career. I don't expect him to be like the breakout surprise of the slate. It's absolutely going to be Street. Now, what we do then is obviously you can just jump to power play, take a look at that, and you'll see that Ben Street doesn't play in the power play. Sorry, my next favorite player does, Cam Fowler. I'll talk about Cam Fowler in a second. That isn't why I'm playing Ben Street. This is why I'm playing Ben Street. You go to the penalty kill, like I mentioned. This is what I'm after this slate, and literally there's 2 people that play penalty kill basically every single shift, and it's Ryan Kessler and Ben Street. I think Chicago are 100% for the taking if their goaltenders are going to continue to play like the hot mess that they have been playing. So, yeah, I have absolutely no problem with Ben Street. And tagging him with Cam Fowler is one of my favorite stacks of the slate as well. Obviously, I prefer it was Ben Street and not Sam Steele playing power play, but yeah, I'm all over Ben Street this slate. I have absolutely no issue with him. He obviously isn't like the most eye-dropping player, but from 3.4K, if he manages to hit his 3+ fantasy point, yeah, you're absolutely flying. And especially if he sees any kind of penalty kill time against the weak Chicago team, I think that could really, really be massive. And again, like Kessler is a little bit more expensive over here, but Ben Street is nowhere to be found, but 3.3K, which is basically nothing. And then again, like I said, I love Cam Fowler, the slate line one, going up against Chicago for only 4.7K. There's nothing to hate about that. Power play one, line one. It was even on the penalty kill. I don't remember. Oh, darn. Probably could have went something else there, but that's okay. We'll do it this way, just so everyone can see again what you have to do. So most in 3 games. Manson, Lindholm, yeah. Fowler even gets some time in the penalty kill with the pair of them. So yeah, I have no issue with Cam Fowler. Probably one of the highest exposure defenders for me this slate, going up against the Chicago team. Like again, like I think a lot of people are going to be afraid of Chicago because it's Chicago, and forget the fact that they have been allowing goals and at borderline at will this season. So is Anaheim like mind-breakingly awesome? No, I would like to imagine they are, but like those salaries can really like you're really starting to enter a zone here where you can still spend up massively after you get a goaltender here, and that's only 1/3 of your salary, and you still got 4 pieces left. So yeah, you can, yeah, just for the sake of it, we'll say Craig Anderson right now because he's right next to my favorite goaltender of the slate. But yeah, let's jump over to FanDuel real quick again and just take a look. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's really hard to ignore when FanDuel has John Gibson as the #1 goaltender. Now, does that mean he's going to be the #1 goaltender? No. But that probably means that if he starts at 7.6K in DraftKings, I know the saves are a little bit differently priced and wins differently priced. But yeah, that's really hard for me to ignore that he's this expensive over here and this cheap over here on DraftKings. So yeah, I'm going to say 4-2 Anaheim, maybe even 5-2 with an empty net goal. I think it'll get closer as the game goes on, but Anaheim should jump out to a really early lead here and not look back until the 3rd period when Chicago slowly starts to claw their way back. I'm hoping, like I said, for an embarrassing breakaway, shorthanded goal from Ryan Kessler and an assist from Ben Street, and just a lot of exposure from Cam Fowler getting into the game. So yeah, 5-2 Anaheim. That's going to be my take in this game. A little bit bold, a little bit risky, a little bit of GPP, but like Ben Street is just everywhere this slate. His salary's just too cheap and going up against a team that's been too bad all season. So yeah, saves you the money. Get him and Fowler's another guy, should be 5K plus easily. So yeah, that's my take there. Like I said, 5-2 Ducks. Next game on the slate is the LA Kings at the Dallas Stars, and I'm mad in love with this game as well. I'm a big LA supporter, but much like Corey Crawford coming back, Jonathan Quick is coming back from injury, and he's just not good enough, plain and simple. He hasn't been playing good enough. A lot of issues around LA is that they're one of the few teams that don't release any lineup information until literally that lineup locks. You don't know who the starting goaltender is all day. It doesn't really matter. Both of them have been playing pretty poorly as of late. I think Jack Campbell, if he starts, would be the better option of the two, but I still have no interest in that side. I'm definitely jumping on Ben Bishop for this game. LA is already one of the lowest scoring teams in like modern history, not mentioned this season. So I have absolutely no issue using a goaltender against them blindly as is. And it just so happens it's Dallas. And like, I think they have a few sneaky plays here that are really going to go under the radar and be way too cheap. The first is, see, this is the percentages I was talking about. If you go under most recent 3 games, it'll show you literally, we're getting the idea now exactly what lines play with who. So like this is an interesting little break of the normal line, but really who I'm looking at is Jason Spezza. That's basically who I want to get my exposure around this slate. Way too cheap, and he has a very strict line with Shore and Pitlick. But that isn't actually the reason I want. I don't mind Shore because he does get power play minutes too. But that isn't really like you'll see here with Spezza playing first line with all the big guns, going up against a team that shouldn't be able to stop Dallas whatsoever. So yeah, like I said, Jason Spezza is just far too cheap. He's going to get excellent matchups all night, play special teams, and I have no problem with that. So actually what I'm doing is I'm playing Spezza, and it's allowing me to spend up on either Sagan or Ben, one or the other, and using that in the flex. This is obviously the late game here, so you want to keep this late as possible. Keep this flexed as possible. So, like, yeah, you can still use Devon Shore too, and that still opens up all sorts of crazy salary, like more than you need by every definition. So, yeah, like, am I going to use Devon Shore in cash? No. Am I using Jason Spezza in cash? Maybe. Like LA have been that bad. Like that's how bad they are. And it opens up all sorts of crazy salary options where you can really start to explore some interesting things from 5.5 each way and only 3 left. Because if you just go one more cheapie, you're basically set for 2 7K guys. It doesn't even have to be that cheap. It just has to be below like 5K. If you can get below 4.5K, that's when you really start to be able to get like basically whoever you want. But yeah, like I said, I'm basically going these two because it still leaves lots of space in the final. Or I should say I'm going flex with Spezza. And then again, in terms of center, if you want to go really cheap, you can. I think there's lots of really cheap options, but like the Kessler Getzlaf is where I'm really attracted to. Definitely the Kessler side of things, which go with Street. But in terms of I like Ben Bishop obviously a lot for the win, but he isn't even my favorite goaltender this slate. We still haven't got there. You can take a guess now who it's going to be, but yeah. In terms of this game, we'll jump quickly over to FanDuel and have a look because they're even more valuable over here. I really love Dallas and FanDuel tonight. Like Ben Bishop, again, the second most expensive goal, or third, not should be the second or third. Yeah, exactly. So like that's a huge discount. Again, like Bobrovsky, I think is going to drop this slate if he ends up starting. But yeah, like. If you get Spezza in here on FanDuel, like forget it. Like, what do you want to do from there? Like you're really pushed to spend that much on winger both ways, and like you can still get someone like you can actually go 4 ways here. Take the 4 hard and go Sagan, Spezza, and Ben as a 3. That still leaves you with lots of money left. 5.6K is more than enough to spend on lots of excellent options, like someone going against Grigoriev and GPP. Like, are you serious? I'll take that all day. But yeah, basically, I have no issue with Dallas. Either format, stack them up, get them into your cards. Radulov is sick, or no. Sorry, confused that someone else. Radulov has an ankle injury, and actually what's been happening is that, as anyone may have noticed there, whenever I, by accident, click back and forwards on my mouse, Roop Hintz is playing first-line minutes on Dallas. And whenever you pair him with Street in either format on either site, you're flying. Like this is a very much a wait and see if he's going to be playing. He's a little bit more expensive on DraftKings, but still excellent value for the exposure he's going to be getting on the line. He's going to be getting. So yeah, like I have absolutely no problem with some Roop in my life. Again, we have to make sure Radulov isn't playing, and we won't it's tough, right? Like we kind of have to know that ahead of time, because with 2 games left, 3.7K isn't the most easy thing to pivot with. You're going to have to, if you want, you can kind of keep him and Street in the same ballpark and only be using one of them. And if Roop isn't starting, pivot down to Street or something like that, or get them both in. Like try and leave yourself open to these two. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm definitely bigger into Street than the Hintz. Like Street's my play of the slate, like no question, hands down. I'm big into Ben Street, going like way over, considering he should be not owned at all. So yeah, Roop Hintz, get him into your cards if he's starting. I'm less bullish on him in cash, but GPP, get him into that game stack, get him into that, or excuse me, into that line stack. Don't hold back on him whatsoever. Don't be afraid. But yeah, FanDuel is really where you want him at literally like no salary whatsoever, 3K. That's the min playable salary on FanDuel. But yeah, in terms of a score, I'm saying 4-0 Dallas. Minimum. I'll be very surprised if LA scores more than 1 goal, let alone 1 goal. I'll be impressed if they score 1. I just don't think they're up for it right now, and I think their goaltenders will let them down very quickly, early and often. So yeah, that's my take there. 4-0 Dallas. Final game of the slate, we have Pittsburgh going to Edmonton. Now, an interesting stat my fellow hockey guy, Chris on RotoPros here, put up was Connor McDavid's basically freewheeling all the points for Edmonton. Like literally every point Edmonton gets on the board, McDavid's on there. And frankly, this slate, I don't see how he's going to get a free matchup against Crosby or Malkin. Like the only way McDavid to me produces this game is if Malkin totally screws off and has one of his diva games and he doesn't play very well and takes a bunch of penalties and flakes off. That's like literally the only way I see McDavid prospering, because him going up against Crosby, it's not going to be a competition. Crosby's going to joke him all game. Now, is that saying put Crosby in your laps? Absolutely not. I'm really not crazy into this game for a couple reasons. I think it's going to be low scoring, a lot more lower scoring than people are expecting. If there's anyone I was going to go with, it's absolutely Phil Kessel at 6.7K. That's far too cheap for Philly boy. And I think against Cam Talbot, he shouldn't have too many issues. He faced him lost throughout his career already. So, yeah, I have absolutely no problem with Phil Kessel in either format. I'm not really keen on. I think Pittsburgh's going to this game. Like people are going to be like, "Oh, McDavid, Crosby, let's get them both into the same card," and it's completely contradicting. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think basically why I'm off this game so much is I think a lot of people are going to be making mistakes on this game, and I'm not really enticed into playing a game I know people are going to be mixing up on a base value. So yeah, I'm just really not into that. But in terms of, there is one pick that I absolutely love this game, and it's definitely Matt Murray. I think Matt Murray is one of my favorite GPP goalies of the slate, only 7.3K in DraftKings. The thing with early about, if they shut McDavid down, Edmonton's not scoring. Like they have literally no way outside of McDavid. And even then, all they have to do is just put up a good fight against McDavid. And if they manage to do that, then I don't see McDavid even getting more than 1 point. So, like, is Matt Murray a shutout bonus? I do think so, yes, from 7.3K with a fairly high ceiling, a fairly high foundation of floor shots that he's going to be facing from the likes of McDavid and Clefbaum and lots of other people who just put them on the net for Edmonton. But at the same time, Matt Murray has been coming back into form. He is a legitimate goaltender. Like, he is a Stanley Cup winning goaltender, and he just finished shutting out Toronto. Like, this is something to pay attention to. Now, I know Toronto's kind of going through their own Boston Blues kind of thing right now where they're just playing badly, but that's no reason not to take Matt Murray in GPP. In cash, maybe. Definitely out of all like the cheap, risky goalies, he's definitely where I would turn to first, just because I think McDavid will get shut down this game. That's just my thought process on it. But I prefer it for GPP because it is Connor McDavid, and I just don't like targeting anything against him. But yeah, jumping quickly over to FanDuel here. We kind of pretty well have the card made already, but we'll drop out Seguin again just to give people more of a salary look. And like, yeah, Matt Murray at 8.5K. I've got no problem with that, dropping down to him here. Again, I don't see a lot of people looking to play a goaltender against McDavid just because they're homers and they don't know that, like, if one team manages to shut down McDavid, then they're screwed as a team. They're not going to score a goal, so, or very highly unlikely to. And like you can't spend this money if you wanted to. It's impossible. Like literally, like you cannot spend this much. So gives you an idea what you can do with just putting Ben Street and Roop Hintz into your lineups this slate. It completely opens up every door possible. It's incredible. I can't wait to play Ben Street tonight. Not so much because I'm convinced he's going to do great. I just feel so strongly, and I'm really excited to see how my postulations come out sometimes, even for the good or bad. Like, I'm okay with being wrong on Ben Street. It's not like I had a lot of reason to be right with him, but when I'm right with him, it could be pretty big this slate. And there is the DraftKings World Championship qualifier for the live final, which is at the Caps game in the middle of March. So I think guys like Zach Smith, Ben Street, Roop Hintz, Jason Spezza, Ryan Kessler, Devin Shore, these names are guys you're going to need in your GPPs this slate if you want to take down the qualifiers, the live final qualifiers, if you want to take down the massive GPPs. That's just a list of names that I happen to really like this slate. But yeah, in terms of goaltenders, again, you can jump over here and you can take a quick look at yeah, Matt Murray's just too cheap on both sites. I'm too into him for GPP, mind you. But yeah, I hope that gives everyone a really good idea. Let's quickly break into some tiers before I let you go and go to sleep for a few hours before Champions League. Yeah, I work nights, so I'm not really going to get to sleep today. It's not going to be great, but whatever. It's currently, what time here? Currently 10:45 a.m., and the Champions League lock is at 4, so the lineups are at 3, so I have to be up before 3. So yeah, 4 hours sleep or so right here, right now. Let's see what I can get done. So yeah, let's quickly do some tiers. I didn't want to show you that. There we go. Clear. Bring it back. Okay. Tier 1, Seguin, Bergeron, Pastrnak, McDavid. As I talked about earlier, I think we can safely cancel out McDavid, and Boston are playing like crap. So there's no real reason to play either Boston player, and it just so happens Seguin's going up against a goaltender who's a walking 4 goals allowed at the moment. So pretty straightforward for me in either format. I'm basically just going to click Seguin most times. You can get away with McDavid. I won't hate you for clicking McDavid, but yeah, because he does stack half decently well with some stuff in this slate, but I prefer Seguin for either format. Tier 2, Patrick Kane, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Johnny Hockey. So basically, if you're going McDavid first, you can't go Malkin or Chris Letang in second, especially Malkin, because that's probably who he's going to go up against. I think Kane's going up against one of the best goaltenders in the league, so I'm not really keen on throwing him into either format, especially when Malkin and Letang are going up against Cam Talbot, who isn't very good at all. And Johnny Hockey going up against Carey Price. Now, I can get behind some Johnny Hockey. I would prefer Malkin for cash. For GPP, it depends where you're stacking, where you're going with it. But in terms of cash, I definitely like Malkin in tier 2. You can probably go with Letang even, but I prefer Malkin. Tier 3, Taves, Jamie Benn, Phil Kessel, Trocheck, Marchand. So if you're going Patrick Kane in 2, you're definitely going Taves in 3. If you're going Seguin in 1, you're definitely going Jamie Benn in 3. But if you're going Malkin in 2, you're probably going to want to consider Kessel in 3. Now, in terms of cash, I think I would be far more likely to stick with the Dallas sides of things. Again, I think they're going up against the goaltender. That's just far, far, far worse. But in terms of like Pittsburgh, want to check to see if, yeah, like Malkin and Kessel stack perfectly. So like, why do you not want to take that? Yeah, it's tough, right? Go either Ben or Kessel, either format. I would stick to those two. Maybe in GPP, if you want to start to work on some Florida here and get Trocheck in, I think that's super viable. And you can also, if you're really going for it, you can go 1 and 3 with either Bergeron or Pasternak and Marchand, but I don't prefer that at all. Leads to lesser stacks down the road. So for tier 3, for cash, I'm definitely going Jamie Benn to try and get the tag in with Seguin against the bad goalie for tonight. Tier 4, Radulov, DeBrincat, Panarin, Zinginabad, Forsberg, Matthew Tkachuk. You could probably go Radulov if he starts. If he doesn't start, either format, like I still have no issue going 3 deep here. Like if they hit like they do every single night against the team that has absolutely no way of stopping them from hitting, yeah, like you'll win everything. So yeah, I don't mind Radulov for either format, picking with those two. Even if you wanted to go, if Radulov starts, one thing you can do is go Kessel in 3 and then Radulov in 4 and skip over Ben. And maybe take Ben in your classics in cash or something like that, because he is cheaper than Seguin, way cheaper than Seguin. Huge discount there, almost a full $1,000. So like I have no problem with that, but I think I would rather just stick with Jamie Benn for the time being and worry about whether or not Radulov starting. If there's no Radulov, probably Panarin. You could get away with Zinginabad. I just prefer Panarin going up against Arizona. That seems like the far more viable option. But yeah, see if you can get Radulov in where you can. Tier 5, Couture, Atkinson, Dadonov, Nuge, Barkov, Monahan, Crosby. So basically, if you went McDavid, you have to go Nuge here. And that does open up some really interesting GPP stacks, but I'm just not really into it right now. I'd rather keep going with what we have and deal with that Pittsburgh-Dallas. Now, this is probably where I would start breaking into the Florida and use either Dadonov or Barkov. Either or work in this scenario because they both stack perfectly later on. But if in tier 4 you went with Panarin, it's absolutely viable to go Atkinson here in GPP. There's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, I'll go Dadonov for Barkov. I've been going Dadonov. I like that more because in tier 6 we have Yandel, Kane, Tatar, Klingberg, Subban, Huberdeau, Giordano, Brent Burns. So basically what you want to focus on here is getting in either Yandel with the Dadonov Barkov from the one before, or you want to focus on getting Klingberg in with your Dallas that you have going. Remember, you're probably putting in Radulov here too. So this is a huge Dallas stack that you have going off. Or you want to focus on getting some Huberdeau in with the previous ones too. Where are we here? Tier 6? Yeah. Because you can get Huberdeau in with Trocheck from earlier, which stacks really well. So then you can start to form a really interesting, where are we? We're in tier 3. So yeah, tier 3 starts to form a really interesting GPP stack that way. But you'll have to kind of drop out Dallas, but that's where some of the other teams start to fit in as well. Anyways, yeah, tier 6. I'm probably going Yandel for cash. Seems to make the most sense, especially with those crazy salary. And for GPP, I'm probably going to keep trying to stack that Dallas and go with Klingberg. And if I'm not going Klingberg, I'd probably go back to Huberdeau and try and focus on a Florida core here, while other people try and fit in San Jose against a really good goaltender at home. So tier 7 is really ugly. There's not a whole lot here to play at all. Byron's just a no. Kreider's like okay at best. Gallagher is probably the cash play, but like I don't even like it. Lindholm's more of a GPP. Hurdle isn't really much of an either going up against Nashville. Werenski's losing love because Seth Jones is back. Josh Anderson isn't really either excuse me. And Arvidsson's more of a GPP play. So yeah, like Gallagher, I guess. Because what really tier 8 leads you to is Duchesne, Petrie, Domi, Foligno, Keller, Joe Carew, Hoffman, Rakeel. Rickard Rakell is completely fallen off the face of earth for Anaheim. He's playing fourth line. You can't play him. Hoffman is GPP viable, especially if you're going to go the Florida route here. You can get him in there. I don't mind Jokeru if you went the Chicago route earlier with the Taves and Patrick Kane and DeBrincat. You can definitely get Jokeru in here, and it's very viable. I'm really not into Keller. I don't mind Foligno for GPP, especially if you're trying to get some of the Panarin and Atkinson from earlier. Foligno makes sense. I don't really like Domi, but I like Jeff Petrie. I'll say that much. And I'm really not interested in Duchesne going up against Bergeron. Bergeron can do fine. It's just he's probably not going to do fine from that crazy salary of his. So yeah, I really like putting Jeff Petrie and Gallagher together here. That seems to just make sense. It fits together really well. You could get really janky and just go Jokeru anyways, or whatever you want, really. Go Hoffman, really. I don't even mind Hoffman in cash here because he has so much goal upside going up against Grigoriev. But yeah, the Gallagher Petrie seems to fit. It works. This is a really good cash right here for tiers. I think if you start rocking that, maybe even put in Radulov like we talked about, you only really have to just blindly pick something from here, which is a win basically with Malkin or Letang. So yeah, that's really my NHL breakdown. I don't think there's anything really more to talk about. Like always, or I shouldn't say like always, like last time, I am putting timestamps down on the bottom. So what the hope is that if you're looking to review a certain game or go back or just check on certain things, click the timestamp, and it should lead you right there instead of having to review the entire video. So that is my NHL breakdown. That's it. I'm going to bed. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everyone, today. I really appreciate it. RotoPros.com. Get over and check us out. Like, subscribe to our videos. Comment if you have any questions. Get at me on Twitter, RadRobDiamond. Sir Robert 6 and all the main message boards and the sites. So good luck, everyone. Have fun tonight. I really do hope to see someone at the top here that I know and follows and catches along with some of this because it's been heat all season. Let's hope it stays heat here tonight. Good luck, everyone. Much love. Take care.